Hello everyone, this is part 2 of my pixel art image for the naval battle, and what you're seeing on the screen was what I previously had. So in this video I'm basically trying to fix the perspective on the faraway boat because it doesn't look like it has angle to shoot its cannons at the near boat. So I'm basically redesigning and redrawing all of the structure of the boat. I kind of feel like I'm not really that happy with what I end up here because I start shading it as well as I'm creating it, and for some reason the whole thing doesn't really talk to me that much and kind of looking visually correct. Maybe the shading was a bit off, maybe the size of the sails was a bit off, but I kind of wanted to leave this here in the timeline and the time lapse just so you can see that mistakes are an absolutely natural part of an image. You very hardly ever make something that is 100% correct the first time, so that it takes trial and error, and that's absolutely fine. That's how you learn. So this ship, you can see the back sails, which are at a different angle than the front sail and the main sails, and because of that it's shaded in a different hue. And the reason for that is that most of its light is coming from the sky, not really from the sun, like direct light. So that's why it's a bit more bluish, because that's the kind of color of light that it's getting. So I have this ship, but I still feel like the old ship looked a lot better. I'm playing around with the color of the sails as well, because again, I don't want them to look like they're made of wood like the ones on the old version of the ship. But eventually I kind of give up on this one because it looks like it's wrong. For some reason it looks like it's tilted wrong. So what I do is I take this old one and I start breaking it apart into different layers and scaling it and moving stuff around so that I can kind of keep the look of it, the graphics, but I don't kind of ruin the way that it was shaded and the colors as well, even though I will change the colors, but at least just the whole shape and volume of the ship itself. I'm playing around here with having kind of a shadow of the front sail cast on the back sail, but at the same time have some of the light poking through, the light that actually escapes in between sails. Having ambient occlusion by adding more shadow on the sails on the back to see if that helps me separate the front sails from the back sails. But one of the things that is kind of wrong here is the way that the sails are being shaded. Considering the placement of the sun, they're actually being shaded in a way that makes them look like they're completely flat, and they should be rounded because of the wind. They're sort of insufflated or inflated by the wind. So what I do here is I will change the shape of the shadow so that it matches the volume of the object. And here we go. This is me changing the shape of the shadow. This allows me to have a darker tone on the side, which helps separate the front sails from the back sails. Especially if I add that bounced light, which at a far away distance like the one that I have here kind of makes sense because it's going to be a lot more blue. There's more sky between you and the object that you're drawing, so it should be tinted a little bit more blue. Adding those details as the planks of wood that make the boat don't really add much to the detail of the boat itself, but they do add to the perspective. So I can kind of convey the perspective a little bit better. Also the sails at the top are really, I don't like that, so I'm making the new ones here. I just make one sail there, not a sail, sorry, a flag, but that flag there is incredibly big. Now I've kind of had enough of that ship there, and I think that if I keep looking at it, I'm not gonna improve anything, so I have to take my eyes away from it. So what I do is I start fixing this boat here. And at this point, people are talking to me in the chat during the stream, and they're kind of providing their opinion, and they're kind of going, yeah, that looks better, or it doesn't look as good, or that looks wrong. And I think at this, either I say something or someone says that this front book kind of, the front ship kind of looks off perspective. And there's a person that suggests that I change the angle of the bow, which is that pointy thing at the tip of the boat. And what I'm doing here mostly is cleaning up, is kind of fixing the colors and fixing the shapes. Solving that small little issue of perspective kind of made a huge difference in the whole perspective of the boat, because it does look like it's a different angle. So if you look here, at some of the details that I'm adding, what I'm trying to do is creating some micro detail to really convey a more interesting shape, to make the image basically be more visually rich, so that it's more engaging to look at. I'm playing around with some of the shapes in the back, some of the angles of the ships, making sure that, or angles of the sails, making sure that they look like sails that are behind. And I still might go in and add some light to kind of provide the idea that some of the light is poking through. Now I created this shapes here because I'm trying to think of a two-color scheme for this boat, for this ship, but I'm not convinced. I think the yellow that I use is not correct. So here you can see me changing the perspective of that element of the ship, and it made just right away made a huge difference. I'm also creating some ports for the cannons, and the reason why I'm putting them at the front is that I can kind of convince people that the boat, the ship far away from this one would have the ability to shoot as well, because it would have cannons at the tip of the boat as well, not just at the sides. I'm doing a splash here on the water, and I think I start talking about doing a rip on the fabric of one of those sails. That's something that I had in one of my original sketches that I kind of wanted to do, almost to give it an idea that the action is taking place. So I think I do that in a completely new layer at the top of the image. Here I'm playing around with having that bounce light on the triangle. I do a few details on the sails here, and I'm going to do those across the whole ship, again, just to create more interest, more visual interest, more noise. The more detailed this ship is, the more it stands out in relation to the one in the back. So here's the rip in the fabric that I was talking about, and I think I'm going to poke another hole by painting a little bit of white on that sail. And to be honest, the back sails should be visible through that hole, but it kind of looks better to have the blue. So this is the progress so far. So at this point, I think I've put in like 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours into this image. But I think I still need to put a lot more. So thank you so much for watching, and take care.